Yo, pals. It's your boy Al, pal. So I think we've all had enough time to watch the Mortal Kombat movie by now. Hell, I've watched it 3 times just because I felt like it. And it wasn't perfect, but I still kind of enjoyed it. And yeah, with that being said, though, we got to talk about it because it does suffer like most adaptations. So let's get into it. Now, as far as Mortal Kombat's concerned, I've seen some rough reviews around the web. I get that. Everyone can have their own opinion. I'm not saying they shouldn't. But I did see some that said that Mortal Kombat Annihilation was better, which, like, the fuck are you talking about? I think we beat that bar by a long shot. So, just to kind of fill this out a little bit, let me give you my quick 30-second or so review of the film, which I thought it was kind of good. There were a lot of characters that I loved from the games, and even the original character wasn't terrible. I feel like he could have used some work, but when you have a movie that has so many characters that you can't really spend a lot of time on a single character to flesh them out fully, and I think that's maybe kind of a problem, because, if he was a character we knew already, maybe that wouldn't be necessary, but hey, that's how it is. I thought the action was fine as well. I obviously, like, anything could have been better, right? But I think it was good enough for me. Problem I really had, though, was like the time in between the action was a little bit slow. I think there was a little bit too much like exposition and explaining things, and that's kind of what we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But I also wish we had a proper tournament. This kind of felt like a prequel, and maybe we'll get the tournament next time. I don't know. Basically, that's the gist. I feel like we could have gotten more, but it is what it is. I still liked it. I'm not going to complain. I'll probably watch it again before it's off HBO Max because I just like Mortal Kombat that much. But the question is, though, like, why did Mortal Kombat suffer, right? And I think it boils down to the way it was written. Like, some of the content in the movie is dumbed down to a point in which the super elements of the characters make sense to the general public. And I'm not saying that this is necessarily a problem with the writers or anything like that. I think that more often than not, in situations like this where, like, there's some odd parts to a script, I think that we can look at the studio. WB is just the worst. They are probably my least favorite film studio around, and it's because they like to meddle, they like to fuck around with shit, and then when things get fucked up and they don't make their money back, they can something that could have been really good. You know what I mean? I think a lot of and we're going to talk about some of these elements in a second, but I feel like the executives there were just like, it's a Mortal Kombat movie, so maybe maybe these guys didn't feel like they had to explain a whole lot. They were just like, we want to get to the fighting, and somebody at fucking WB was like, yeah, but how do they have powers? Do we have to explain that? We should probably explain that. I don't know why they have powers. I need to know why they have powers. How did they get powers? Like, that's just kind of dumb, But, in doing something like that, it adds unnecessary sequences to the film. And this is something that every adaptation has to deal with. The Doom movies had to deal with this kind of BS. The Monster Hunter adaptation had to do this as well. And what I'm talking about is, specifically with the Mortal Kombat movies, is the idea of Arcana. Which, it kind of is like what Annihilation did with Animalities, but even that took a backseat in that movie to a degree, right? It was kind of like a big plot point for the end, I suppose. I haven't watched Annihilation in a minute. I try to stay away from that one. I like to watch it for nostalgia, but I don't like to just sit down and be like, I'm going to watch Mortal Kombat Annihilation. It's a joke. It's a joke. Anyway, regardless, right? I feel like this is just one takes a ton of wind out of the movie. Like, we're spending a lot of time explaining and showing them earn these types of things, and it doesn't really quite feel earned, you know what I'm saying? So, and the only really purpose that this whole, like, part of the movie serves is to explain why they have powers. Let's take, like, Jax, for example. He could have just received some cybernetic implants after fighting some Zero. That would have made sense, because there's a lot of things in the world of Mortal Kombat that deal with cybernetics, like there's a cyber initiative with Lin Kuei and stuff. I think if there's that type of technology to a ninja clan, I feel like that type of technology is available to somebody in the special forces in the military. I don't think that is too far-fetched. I think that tying his metal arms to an arcana or like a power is just ridiculous. And I don't know. I didn't care much for the way Jax got his stuff. And as for the rest, you know, they just could have been like techniques handed down through generations within the Order of the Light or taught by Raiden to aid in protecting Earthrealm. I just feel like I like the idea of these characters being such good fighters that they could quickly learn techniques instead of this mystic chosen one MacGuffin bullshit, you know? And I feel like, you know, in the 95 version was so well received because it hit the points it needed to. It had a tournament, it had fights, and it had Johnny Cage, motherfucker. No. Seriously, though. We need a sequel so that I can get some Johnny Cage. Honestly, that's what this movie was missing. But the 95 film felt like a true adaptation. But that's the issue, though, is that like the arcana, these story points, they're kind of odd. They serve to explain why things are the way they are, which I will say I think they can be done well. But in most of the time, it really just takes up too much time and energy from the film, right? And that's really my only issue, though. And a lot of adaptations do this, like Doom introduced mutants in the most ridiculous fashion, like a ton of exposition instead of having demons. You could say they dodged a religious bullet there, but they still took a fucking hit because their movie sucked ass. And don't get me started on the stupid sci-fi wormhole bullshit in Monster Hunter. I don't see why adaptations have to do this, but it happens. You know, at the end of the day, I think that it's kind of like, you know, studio executives tend to think that the general public is too stupid to use their imagination or something, and so they have to over-explain and spend too much time talking about something or having a ridiculous goddamn plot so that people feel like they're connected to the people in this universe or something. I don't know. It just takes away from that fantasy element that the games have, and it bothers me quite a bit. And I've been trying to think of a way to do this video without, you know, being too crazy or, you know, talking too much shit. But I have to talk shit about Hollywood at making video game adaptations at some point because they really fucking suck at it. But anyway, you know, at the end of the day, I still liked Mortal Kombat 2021 enough to watch it 3 times. And I'm going to tell you, I might watch it again. I probably will. You know, it has its moments. I think that it's okay. I think there are some weak points in the movie, but I feel like this is a foundation that we can build from. Like, you know, the second movie doesn't have to take time to talk about Arcana bullshit or anything like that because we already spent a lot of time in this movie doing it. So we just kind of gloss over that shit, you know? We can have a proper tournament. Dude, I think that there's a lot of good places this could go. I can understand why people have their opinions about this movie. I didn't think it was too bad. But I'll tell you what, why don't you tell me what you thought about the movie? Let me know in the comments below. This has been your boy Alpal. Be kind, be safe, spread the love, and we'll see you next time. Peace.